G'day guys. I just thought I'd drop by and have a bit of a chat about what inspired me as an author. You know, someone asked me recently whether it's true that to become an author, you know, you sort of have to love reading and sharing or reading other people's stories and, you know, researching all those sorts of things. And they asked me what was it that inspired me to become an author? What were the books that I looked to? And, you know, when I showed them, they were a bit surprised, because you would think someone writing books that are intended to inspire people or to help them find their way home to themselves, like my books are supposed to be able to do, you know, inviting people to look deeper at themselves or look at their relationship with the world around them, or, you know, even like to check in on that relationship that they have with the natural world and the animals. All those, that's what my books are known for, and that's what I'm known for. So it is a safe assumption to assume that, you know, maybe I was inspired by authors who wrote similar books. And it is true in one way, I guess, because I have always loved Ted Andrews' book, Animal Speak, and the Medicine Cards by Jamie Sams, and the, you know, books like that. But they weren't the ones that actually got me, you know, in the heart, and really inspired me to pick up a pen and paper as a young person and write. It wasn't them. Believe it or not, my inspiration as an author comes from books that I read when I was a kid. Books that, when I picked them up, showed me that there was a world outside the world that I recognised or that I found familiar. Does that make sense? I sort of gravitated towards stories that led the hero of the story to discover something out about themselves, or to realise that they were stronger than they thought, or, you know, that their perception of the real physical world is different to the possibilities when you allow yourself to look beyond what everyone sees as normal. So, you know, I loved growing up. There was this amazing book, I can't find it now to show it to you, but this wonderful story about a wind-up mouse, a tin mouse that had a child, and it was called The Mouse and His Child. The book is called The Mouse and His Child, by a man called Russell Hoban. But it sort of tells the story of this little wind-up mouse who just wants to show his son that he has choices. He doesn't have to wait for someone to wind him up, to allow him to move and to dance and to celebrate life. And as a tin toy, he goes on this adventure and faces all sorts of extraordinary challenges, but eventually realises his dream. And, you know, that story in itself inspired me as a kid, because all I wanted to do was wind myself up and not have someone else do that for me, you know, so that I could find my way out into the world. And that really did help shape my view of the world, and how, you know, by looking inward, you can actually find more than what you can if you look outside yourself and seek guidance from outside yourself. And, you know, I'll show you some of them. Some of the books that really changed my life were like Tom's Midnight Garden. I don't know if you've ever read this story yourself, but it's beautiful. About a little boy who realises that there is another world outside ours. And he realises he has access to that world one night when he hears this clock strike 13 times, when it was only supposed to strike 12 at midnight. But like a whole world opens up to him, of the spirit world, you know, there's this whole other space available to him. So that's a book that helped me to realise that I don't have to stay in this regimented space that I was born into. I can branch out and reach out and explore without physically having to leave my bedroom. That makes sense. So it allowed me to dream and to think, and it actually opened my heart up to the possibility of there being other spaces, other worlds, other dimensions, other spirits, other beings that probably could be watching me, but I can't see them, but they're guiding me and inspiring me. And it was just like a real eye-opener. So Tom's Midnight Garden by a lady called Philippa Pearce. You really should check that book out. I find it so inspirational. Of course, this is a classic. Everyone knows the story of Watership Down. a little rabbit who one day wakes up and realises that he's having visions of something not great, and he tries to warn his family and his friends, and they sort of listen to him but not really, and then eventually they're forced to. And it's this story of him realising he's not broken at all, that he's actually perfectly fine. He's actually got skills and gifts that the other rabbits don't have, and they look to him then as a wise one and a guide. And it sort of hinted at other realms, like a god type energy that was watching over us and guiding us, and it's just beautiful. But you know, that really inspired me, this book, to look out myself. And of course it's an animal book, so of course it's going to touch my heart in ways that other books don't. Anything by Roald Dahl, this is fantastic, Mr. Fox. Anything by Roald Dahl's great. But this is not even a very big book, so it's quite thin. It's quite a little story, but what he does in the space of that book is just extraordinary. He changes everything. He gives people in his community, when I say people, I mean other animals, the foxes and the badgers and the rabbits that live in his forest. He gives them alternatives. He gives them an alternative world where they can take control of their destiny and not be, you know, not be victims, to fall victims to the farmers that dominate the rural land around the forest the animals live in. Check it out. It's quite an extraordinary story. Roald Dahl is a brilliant author. He really knows what he's doing. You know, we think he writes for kids, but he also strongly writes for adults. And I guess he found his voice in the children's literature market, or the market for the children's books. But he was fantastic, as his stories are for both adults and children alike. You might not have heard of this, but a lot of you will have. The Little Prince, just an inspirational story about a little boy who appears out of nowhere and offers guidance and advice, worldly advice, to a pilot who crashes his aeroplane, who's obviously hallucinating, or is he? You know, he's journeying between the worlds and questioning his own mortality and what's important to him and what's not important to him. Beautiful story. It's just lovely. And I actually, when Judy and I got married, this book touched me so deeply that we had a reading from this book, because it just said everything we needed to say. Sorry. You asked me what inspired me. I'm an emotional person, so those who know me realise that I don't hold my feelings back. That when I feel something, I feel it very deeply. So when I was asked to share the books that inspired me, I knew in my heart it was going to be a tricky situation because I was going to cry. So if you don't like it, I guess you can turn it off. But let's keep going and see what else. Now, this book's nothing like the others, but it is a story of survival under extraordinary situation, and I guess this story has been told many, many times in different ways by different authors with different influences that come in to cause a threat. But The Day of the Triffids was the very, very first story that I read where the world basically ended in one way and had to reconstruct itself. I have done that in my life so many times. I've reinvented myself, and I have recreated myself, and I've reshaped myself, not because I thought I was broken or wrong. It's just to adapt and to change and to grow and to heal. So in a really weird way, in the story, the main character, there's a meteorite shower, and everyone looks, of course, to the meteorites. They're flying across the sky, but when they wake up in the morning, they're all perfectly blind because it's damaged their eyes, their ability to see, except for the main character who weirdly worked with Triffids in his work life and had already been stung by one, so his eyes were wrapped up. So he was unable to see when the meteorite shower came, so he survived going blind, but he then had to help others who were blind, and it was like a story of rediscovery, reinvention, and he had like realizing what was important to him and what wasn't, and you don't have to see with your eyes to be able to experience a beautiful world if you so dream it. This is a wonderful little story, The Littles, about a family of little people that live in the walls of a regular family, regular-sized human family. They live in the walls and they borrow things from the family whose house they are occupying to live their own life. And they're little people with mouse-like tails. And here's a story, the picture on the back where they're riding on on the family's cat, who they eventually make friends with. But it's a story of realising that, you know, you might be little or you might feel insignificant, but when you believe in yourself, you can achieve wonderful things without stealing from the family that you're living with, by the way. It was just like a weird little twist. I also read, growing up, but more of an adult, believe it or not, books by a man called Philip Pullman. He wrote a trilogy called his Dark Materials, and in the trilogy there are books, there's three books, The Northern Lights, The Subtle Knife, and The Amber Spyglass. And you might have seen this movie, seen it at the movies. The book's called The Northern Lights, but what was the original Northern Lights? Anyways, it's an amazing, I can't remember what the movie was called, I can't remember if it was called the same thing, but it's about a little girl who lives in a world very similar to ours, almost exactly the same as ours, like a parallel world to ours. She lives in a place called Oxford, and in this place, your soul is externalized and walks beside you as an animal. And you can imagine, when I read these books, how dumbfounded I was that there actually was a space out there, or someone had dreamt of another place similar to what, you know, ours. Like, I've seen the world like this in so many ways growing up, a world where your spirit animal walks beside you, and that's how I've grown up seeing people's animal spirits walking beside them. That's how I'm able to read people and how I'm able to help them and inspire them and see what's going on in their life by looking at the animals that walk with them. In this world, in Lyra's world, it's your soul that's externalized and walks beside you. So if your animal is harmed or injured or dies, you do as well. And if you die, your animal passes as well, because it's an extension, a soul extension of you. Fantastic stories, wonderful adventures, turned into movies twice, the first book. But it's a series now, which I think you can find on, I'm going to say Netflix or Binge or something like that, but check it out. Brilliant, and Philip Pullman deserves an award. I think he's a brilliant author, because it means so much to me to know that there is a world out there that's similar to mine, that he's visited this place where it's like I grew up. It's hard to explain. Everyone, of course, loves The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. I don't have to explain why. Sense of adventure, that realisation that, again, that you can achieve anything. You might be a little humble hobbit living in his hobbit hole, but you can save the world. You can become a hero even if you'd never thought you could be yourself. You can see that these stories, these themes, have definitely helped shape me growing up as a person and given me the ambition to reach out of myself and to see the world as a powerful place that, you know, is wanting me to be a part of it. And that's been part of my message all along, is that the world, Mother Earth, she wants you to thrive, she wants you to do well, she wants you to live an abundant and healthy and wonderful life, and everything that we need, she offers us. So all these books that I'm showing you have that aspect where, you know, it's about choice and about your belief in yourself and about what guides you and inspires you to become a better person, or whether you're going to choose to fall victim to the crap that has influenced your space up until that moment. Does that make sense? All the pressures and responsibilities and abuses and all those sorts of things that a lot of people crumble under the weight of. All these books growing up, because I had a really crappy childhood, really crap. And I'm not the only one, so I'm not going to go in about that, but I could have easily have fallen victim to it. I could have easily have crumbled under the weight of all that pain and confusion. But it was like these books, when they came into my life, inspired me otherwise, and they really did help me to listen to the natural world and help me to listen to myself in the spirit world, and gave me the courage and the knowledge to be able to access those spaces so I could help other people, but also myself growing up. Anyone who knows me knows that my soul skipped a beat. It's like it found itself and revived itself when I thought it was gone when I was growing up, when I picked up these books. There's a 7 in the series, The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis. Changed my freaking life. I kid you not. Not only did I realise that God wasn't a selfish prick who only helps people that he sees as worthy, which is how I grew up believing. I thought I prayed to God and Jesus my whole childhood and nothing happened. Or did it? You know, like, no, God never replied and God never answered. Or did he? You know, because that's how I found these books. My uncle was an Anglican priest, and on his bookshelf I found the series of these books. So I asked if I could borrow them, and through these books I found God. Well, a version of God that resonated with my heart, you know. They're not religious books by any stretch of the imagination, but the message is strong and it's right there in front of you. And Aslan the lion personifies God and gave me something to believe in and to hold on to, and helped me to find a place to put my anger and frustration and confusion as to why God would allow a child to suffer the way I did, and the way countless other children suffer. This book gave me a way home. Do you know what I mean? To my own belief system, and my own faith, and my own connection to something bigger and mightier than me. You asked what books inspire me. These are the books. I'm not interested in reading someone's life story or someone else's philosophy, which is usually a regurgitation of someone else's philosophy. I didn't want that. I wanted truth. I wanted to know what the fuck was going on and how I could use that knowledge to change my life and to make the world around me a better place. And I found it in kids' books. Go figure. But you know what? One last book. The person, really, that gave me the courage to follow my lifetime dream. Ever since I was a child, I'd wanted to write. I've wanted to write, and I've wanted to share what I knew through the written word. It's like some people are born to paint, some people are born to dance, some people are born to sing. I was born to write. I love writing. And the person who gave me, back when I first started out, when no one else listened, the one person who listened to me and gave me the courage and the strength to move forward, believe it or not, was a very well-known Australian author called Mem Fox. And she's very well known for her beautiful story, Possum Magic, which, again, it's a story of waking up and realising who you are and remembering that you don't have to live your whole life in an invisible state, that you have the choice to be seen, and how you are seen and how you are heard is also your choice. Mem Fox, when I was a school teacher, the kids in my class, we wrote to Mem Fox, and because I thought it'd be a great way of inspiring them to want to write and to read and she wrote back, and as a class we wrote back and we answered, and after a couple backwards and forwards, the kids of course lost interest because they're moving on. Kids are wonderful like that, but I couldn't let go. So I continued to write, and we became pen friends. We became friends. We actually met when I say quite a few times, we met a few times in the real world. But most of our correspondence was via letters, and she used to send me manuscripts that she was working on, like, not because you read picture books, so just one-page manuscripts, but also sample cover art. She sent me postcards and letters, all handwritten, and she gave me the courage to trust in my own written words, and I will never forget that. So the whole point of this is that because of all that faith, I wrote this, Animal Dreaming. This is the very, very first incarnation, I guess you could call it, of Animal Dreaming. The book that everyone now knows me for, the book where talking about the animals and the messages. And I wrote this book not just to record and give thanks to the animals, but I wrote it so that I have something to leave my kids, so they don't have to wonder what Dad would say if they came across a certain animal, because I wrote my books for my kids, because I found inspiration in books that I bought for them in lots of ways. So it's like this two-way street, this roundabout of life. But I want you to know that it doesn't matter where you get your inspiration from, as long as it means something to you, as long as what you're seeing as inspiration is helpful and positive and guides you to a place of greatness within yourself. You don't have to be a philosophical person who reads papers written by professors to know that you want to be a writer yourself. if you are a writer, be one. You know, if you want to be a writer, just be one. A friend asked me once, I want to be an author like you, and I said, well, just do it. Start. Just write. Put pen to paper. It takes 10 minutes a day, that's all, to write a book. 10 minutes a day. Everyone can find 10 minutes. So just put pen to paper and see where it leads you. Let spirit guide your words. Let spirit shape the pages in front of you. Let them help you to remember what it is you have to say. Does that make sense? Everyone has a story. Everyone. It's the gift is, I guess, the trick is to find a way to tell that story without it losing its power and its magic, but in a way that also inspires people to want to read it. Anyways, should you ever decide to write, and should you ever need someone to help you, like Mem Fox helped me, gave me the courage, and you know, she gave me the courage to take my very first manuscript into a publisher, and I got it published with them. It was a teacher's manual, like a teacher's resource book. So what? It was the beginning of something wonderful, and it was Mem who helped me to find the courage to do that, and I'm offering you that. But instead of saying go find a publisher, just so happens that my wife and I have started one. We have our own publishing company, Animal Dreaming Publishing, or you know, you can find it at animaldreamingpublishing.com. Check it out. I publish my own work. I used to be published by other people, but now I publish my own work, and we've helped a lot of other people publish their work as well. So have a think. And if anything I've said resonates with you, and you feel that burning urge to write, and you know exactly what's inspired you, and you know exactly what you want to say, please reach out. animaldreamingpublishing.com. You know, everything you need's on the website to know how to go about it, but just reach out, message us. I hope you've enjoyed my video. I hope you've enjoyed my talk. I hope you've enjoyed listening about the books and the things that have inspired me as a writer. When I say inspired, they literally freaking changed my life. If you have, you know, any inkling that you have something worth saying, it's your responsibility to share it. Imagine if these people hadn't written their books. Where would I be? You might be what you write might be just what's needed to help someone else. You've got a responsibility to get that message out there. So let's do it. Let's get published. I'll speak to you soon, guys. Thanks so much. And again, check it out, animaldreamingpublishing.com. Thanks so much for listening.